All right, let's go straight into it.
Yes.
Tell me about t-shirts. Did you bring me a t-shirt?
I did. Oh my god. Oh my god.
That's all right. I'll be back for you.
Yeah. Oh shit. Sorry, my.
You should be doing a blowout on like closing night. You're DJing right at closing night, so you should have the box of t-shirts there.
I really should.
T-shirt cannon.
I should, Merch is like a new thing. It's a new thing.
Yeah, I want to talk about merch because I don't think I've talked to a guest about merch before. But I do love talking about money and overheads and how any of this shit works. Because with merch, it's also having to have the cash up front to be able to go, I'm going to buy a bunch of t-shirts and sell a bunch of t-shirts, but having the capital on hand to invest and go, this is going to be a worthwhile investment and people will buy these and I can lug this whole box of t-shirts to Melbourne. Tell me about the merch motivation.
Yeah, I think it's like I'm at a point in my career where I can actually do it. But then also looking at how much you're kind of like making from the festival, like you're not really making much. And so it's just, I've just moved here from New Zealand and I've lost a lot of my income because a lot of my income was from like TV and ads and all that kind of stuff. And
we have TV here.
Yeah, but I'm like, trying to get back in there. Like it's hard. I'm looking through. So
merch, you see a return on?
Pardon?
You see a return on selling t-shirts?
Yeah. It's crazy. And also got to thank my girlfriend as well, who's an amazing graphic designer.
They look great. They look awesome. I think sometimes you see dog shit merch out there and someone's going, oh, buy this. And you're like, but your t-shirt looks great. And you see a good show, you want to hold on to that moment. You want to go, oh, I want a reminder of that.
Yeah, it's the other part is like, I don't want to like just kind of shill something that kind of feels soulless. Like know that like, I don't know. And on the design, that was like over a couple of days of just like me and my girlfriend be like, I love this. I love this. So like, every part of it, I can tell you exactly why it was kind of made. So the design is like a tiny little fat boy holding a glove helium balloon, and then they're running on a volume knob that's running the knob so that it's going higher in volume. And like, I don't know, I'm like with my girlfriend, she's shout out Jenny, she's really great at putting references together. So the references in there is like, I love Gengar. I really relate to him. So we spend a lot of time.
Gengar the Pokemon?
Yeah, Gengar the Pokemon.
One of the ghost types.
Yeah, I love him.
Let's talk ghost types. People are afraid to talk ghost types on podcasts, but like, I want to be the exception.
I love Gengar. I love Annihilate. That's Primape's evolution. He dies and comes up. But yeah, I really related to him as a character. And so we spent a lot of time going, how do we deconstruct Gengar to then kind of like be more like me? And then it kind of just came down to like just changing like the eyes, the lips, and the hair, and then kind of like getting his spikes. The big problem was like his spikes were too up, so we're like, what if you just like bring them down kind of like your hair, David? And I was like, oh yeah, hell yeah. And then kind of making him look like he's a bit puffed and stuff. And
yeah, love that. Yeah. And it's a great conversation starter as well. I think to have merch out there in the wild that people go, what is that? Oh, this is David Correos' t-shirt. Oh, great. I'm going to look at like, you're starting, who knows, you get new fans out in the wild.
Yeah, I think we managed to sell one because someone was just saying the shirt's being sold like outside the venue, and someone came through. Oh, that's really cute. We'd like to get.
The scary thing that happens in some situations I hear about is, venues coming for a slice of that pie as well. So we even like, oh, I can make more money if I sell some t-shirts, have some merch off the back of my show. That venues, and we don't have to name and shame or whatever if this is happening to you, but like even that they want to slice of as well. So even in those moments where an artist goes, oh, I've thought of another revenue stream that might actually turn a profit, is the venue or another interested party is going, I'm coming for that as well. So how do you navigate that? Have you had to come up against those sort of situations before?
So I'm really lucky, and the Greek are not taking any slice, and they're just like, it's very, very lovely, and I really appreciate that because I know a lot. I think that's one thing that really scares me as well, is also like, someone can just kind of go like, yo, you're selling them in here, we want a slice of that. And you just kind of get into a point where you're like, man, everyone's taking a slice out of everything, and it's crazy. And
the artist is the taking the biggest risk. We're putting forward all the cash, to go.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm here, and then they go, yeah, I'm coming for that too.
Yeah, well, that's why. Yeah, I got I'm with Century, and they're very lovely on that kind of stuff, and they're letting us really hold on to that, and we're happy to take the onus on everything on there. But like, I will go to the extreme. So last year, I didn't really know what was up, so I was selling the t-shirts in a back alley. I was trying to cover all my bases to be like, look, I don't want to be surprised on like on a fee here, so I will. And what's great is like, because I've got such a chaotic nature on stage, I feel like I can almost convince people to like that it's the novelty that I'm selling them on the street.
There's something punk rock about that. There's something fun about, oh yeah, great, this feels like outsider art type thing of like, oh yeah, we should be buying it in an alley. I would hate to go to the box office and have to buy it from someone. I want the full Correos experience.
Yeah, I want them to be like, oh, there was a moment with this. I think like that's a lot of what I do is I kind of learned a couple of years ago from Jeremy Wells. It was like, it's all about moments. And so if I can create a moment in anything so that like the thing has an attached remembrance, I'm like, yo, that's
Tell me about this. So Jeremy Wells, Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Where did that come from of like it all being about moments?
Oh, so it was when we were filming, like in the middle of filming season, the season of Taskmaster New Zealand that I was in. I was backstage, and I'm always, again, like it was my first kind of time in TV. So like I'd done TV before, but this was like the first like big one. I could really feel it. And Jeremy Wells,
and it's got a great reputation. I feel like so many people are seeing all the Taskmaster New Zealand shows at the festival.
Yeah, and Jeremy Wells is like he's quite big. Like even when I came up to him, I was like, oh, you're like famous. And so to be able to have like a rare moment backstage and ask him, hey, what is this about? Like, what are your tips? And he's like, oh, it's just about grabbing as many moments as possible that you can kind of capture on camera. And something in my brain kind of clicked that like I was kind of doing that without even realizing it. Like if I was to look at everything I was doing, everything that was shocking, what I was really trying to do was I was trying to do something that you couldn't find on YouTube. Like that was my main reason for going like so cooked for a lot of my stuff. And then once I finally got to put it down into a sentence of like it's about moments, I was like, okay, cool. That's my
coming from, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, not a comedian. He's a presenter. What?
Yeah, he did a lot of satire. He did a lot of TV comedy. But
okay, yeah, right.
And not too much in terms
because I only know him from Taskmaster. This is the divide.
Yeah, he was real punk rock.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It was really sick.
Oh, fascinating. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about because I do have questions that come up from the listeners, and one of them is the value of management. And you say you looked after by Century.
Yeah.
They, correct me if I'm wrong, and also, we can limit how much we go into, get your spreadsheet out and let's look at the deal. Let's look at the contract. But like the general idea is they will be they'll take that contingency up the top. So like you're protected, you're not doing the upfront. They'll send you a bill at the end. But at the beginning you go, they'll cover the venue, they'll cover the this, they'll cover the that. And then you don't, and also you told me off mic as well that you don't have to look at your, they look at your ticket numbers as well. So you don't have to do the independent artist thing of opening up that attachment and going, oh, zeros again. Okay, what do I do? So tell me, like, what do you get out of having someone look after you at the festival? Do you feel looked after?
Yeah, I feel really looked after. And I think it's like I think there are parts of me that's to my detriment, but like I'm kind of useless at admin. I know where my weaknesses are at, and it's like I'm so fine for other people to bring in their strengths and to pay for it and to have them support it if it means that I don't have to like focus on that kind of stuff. Because like even, man, it's gonna sound, so even like a GST return, I have been like in fetal position crying with my friend on the phone trying to console me because I didn't know how to convert from like I didn't know how to use the cells on my numbers app on my Mac and then bring it into Excel. I did, and it made me start crying. Like that's how useless I am.
Oh, a man after my own heart. So I found a beautiful wife who helps me a lot with numbers. That's her strength. That isn't the reason why I married her. It's a perk. It's a bonus. But like finding someone that can help in those situations is massive because I'm the same. My brain melts around numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes up so much time in my life to do all of that admin, and it affects everything else. That I'm like, look, if there is a switch where like I can just like get rid of that and have other people help me with that kind of stuff, that's my whole thing. Is like, look, I'll always work around what I can get other people to help me with that I just can't do, and I don't want to spend my life learning the skill to then make me go deeper down this path that I don't actually enjoy,
and then be doing less of the art part.
Yeah. And I know that's a privilege. I know that's a massive privilege, and I know that there are other people that are good at doing both sides, and just not. I'm so jealous.
But also,
you're
you're paying for it as well. It's not like someone's just come and gone, I will do all these things for you. It's like you're hiring these people. They're taking, a percentage so this happens. It is on the privilege side of things, but like break that part of things down for me as well. Of the courting of management. Do they come for you? Do you come for them? How do those things work?
Yeah, so I got my first manager when I was in New Zealand. I'm with Notorious over there, and how that worked was there was like a Best Newcomer award in New Zealand called the Billy T Award, and then after that he hit me up and he was like, "Hey, would you like to be managed by me?" And I was still pretty fresh, and yeah, he helped me out so much, and I think you start to realize like the relationship is like, oh yeah, the manager's not like a robot, or like they're a person, and you start to realize the moves that they're making in terms of like being a person to like help support you. And I don't know if there's like a bad thing where like you shouldn't get like, like personal or like intertwined, but you can't help but look at this person who's like trying to like move mountains for you, or like really trying to sacrifice their own things for you for the little amount of money that I'm making at the time. Like I'm not making much. I'm not making like they're looking at me and going, you're a long-term investment. And so that's the kind of relationship that like kind of evolves with it. And I know that there are people that are like, hey, look, it should be business and it should be like separated, but it kind of feels like a coach and an athlete type relationship where you're like, okay, you're gonna be around for a long time. And so it's, I think, getting comfortable with that and like mentally being like fine with that, and just not being in this world of like, oh, they're trying to scam you, like in every I can't look at it.
But it's also it's a team relationship as well. Like their job is to be making money for both of you, and making their job make sense. Yeah, that's interesting. So tell me about the move to Australia and having Australian representation.
Yeah. So that was really cool. Had to like have some big boy meetings to make sure that everyone was like on the same page, and that so make sure.
How do you feel about that as a sort of a non-admin brain? How are you in terms of business meetings and representing yourself and your own interests in those moments?
Yeah, it's the hardest thing. It's so tough. I had to spend like 2 days kind of like, okay, what is this? Like, how do I make sure that everyone's on the same, like, cause at the end of the day, it's like, I just don't want it to feel like I'm stepping on anyone's toes or I'm going behind anyone's back, or like, I just want everything to be open. But then even to feel like, hey, I'm going to be open about everything. The feeling is so vulnerable, cause you're like, oh no, what if I'm like revealing something that I didn't realize I hadn't told someone, and what if they blow up and now they're blowing up in front of me, in front of other people, and you're like, oh no. And so that, it takes me days to just like try to make sure that I'm wording everything right, because, everyone's kind of like, at the same time that, you're all together, everyone's also looking out for themselves. And so it's like, it's having to, I'm still wrestling with it. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but like, I've realized I'm going from like one camp to another camp, and it's because I'm still confused about how to. What
is the, because we see a lot of Kiwi comedians come over to Australia. Like, what do people talk about in New Zealand? Do people talk about, like, is Australia the destination? Is it that the natural sort of course of things? Do people talk shit about people moving to Australia? Like, what happens behind the scenes?
Oh, okay. So I think what happened was there were a couple of New Zealand comics that just kind of, like, for the longest time, I remember when I first started, Australia was like, oh yeah, that's a big country. Like, that's somewhere you just kind of get lost. This is like really early on. And then I just started seeing so many of my friends like just starting to come over and like grinding it through. And then you start to see the rewards that they kind of get, and you don't realize what you're actually witnessing is they're actually tearing a wall down for like, hey, for people to actually go, this is actually an opportunity. It was there the whole time. Like anyone could have done it. But I think it's kind of like sport until someone does it, until someone breaks that record, people don't realize you can do that. And so I think we just had, and it's so cool that they're all my friends and you're just seeing them all, do such amazing things. And it kind of just makes you go, oh, you don't have to just do it like in New Zealand. Like maybe it's not just aiming for New Zealand TV or aiming for like the headlining gigs in New Zealand. And then I think it also coincides with the fact that like TV is like dying in New Zealand and a lot of the income that we make is kind of disappearing. And so we're all just going like, yo, we need to find like somewhere else.
Are there greener pastures over here, or is it the illusion of, because like I look over at New Zealand and go, oh, it looks like a lot of cool things are being made and happening. There's so many great comedic brains. Like it's almost overwhelming, like how many interesting, very diverse, like just textured, like colorful comedians that come out of New Zealand. Like what do you think that is? Like why does New Zealand have a reputation for just great comedic brains, or are we just seeing the cream that's rising to the top?
I think you're seeing, okay, one, New Zealand doesn't enjoy New Zealand comedy. It's a new thing. It's a new thing that New Zealanders are starting to fuck with other New Zealanders. Like it's crazy. If you're looking at the history of it, I'm kind of splotchy on it. New Zealand comedy is kind of like New Zealand stand-up and how it exists kind of only really came in like the early 90s. And there were just like cultural cringe is huge in New Zealand. Like we can't laugh at each other. I think the reason is because, they're comparing against like the budgets of like American and UK made shows, and they're just constantly comparing on like, this is shit. And then there was a couple of TV shows that just like, I think it was called Melody Rules. I don't know much about it, but there was a show called Melody Rules. Apparently it just like, it got like shat on by the whole country, and it lost and had a lot of massive distrust from New Zealand comedy, I think, after that. But I don't know. This is just like what I've read from articles.
Yeah.
And so a New Zealand comic is just constantly dealing with crowds who are on the back foot. And I think we're like I think everyone in New Zealand, comedians who have been doing the same amount of time as me, are just starting to feel it like kind of tick over, and like New Zealanders are like starting to trust us again. And it's crazy. Like it's got, obviously it's always got to be cool overseas first before it's cool in New Zealand. But so everyone's on such a back foot.
Yeah, and it feels very familiar to Australians as well. Tell me about your origin story. How does it start for you?
I started in Christchurch, and Christchurch has produced a lot of great comics, but a lot of them usually leave pretty early. So there was never like a solid pro scene. All the pros would just leave and then find their luck in other cities. And so when I'd started, there was no real scene. There were a couple of like old heads that like mentored me, and I really appreciated them. But I started with buskers. Like I started because the Christchurch earthquake happened, and there was no venues for buskers to perform in. So my mate started a lineup who was a magician, and I knew him through magic. And so he had seen like a comedy monologue that I did, and he put me on the lineup. And then I did that show.
You started in magic?
Yeah, I started like when I was like, that's how I knew, the guy who was running the gig. Like this was like when you're a teenager type thing. It's nothing serious.
I like when you say when you're a teenager and you do magic.
Yeah, I'm that nerd. They were like Star Wars nerds. They were like pop culture. I was like slut hand. Like I love doing tricks. And then so I was following like jugglers, sword swallowers. And then, so when you're kind of
you never want to follow the sword swallower, man.
Yeah, but I learned, and not many other people know how to follow a sword swallower. But you watch my gear, and you're like, that's follow sword swallower gear. And that's why he's taping a knife to his head, because he can't put it down for now.
There's gotta be that's when you do the interval after the sword swallowing. You do a little break. The audience needs to reset, because now they're expecting everyone to swallow something. You're like, no, let me reframe. Okay, the sword swallower should have done some different gear as well, so they didn't set up an expectation that we're all going to put stuff in our mouth. I do different stuff.
It was crazy because I didn't learn how to write a joke for at least probably a year.
And you're still working on it.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. It's my biggest insecurity is like my writing, because I think I that like that thing when you get told you're either like a performer or a writer.
Yeah.
I lean so hard into that.
Which is always all of these absolutes are bullshit. There's nothing's absolute, but people love to speak in absolutes. Even me right now saying there's no absolutes is an absolute.
Yeah. But it's just like it's crazy that like I feel like where I started there was no there was no one really to look at in terms of like joke writing to be like, okay, this is how it's done.
You were just filling around in the dark. You were just sort of making it up yourself, which is awesome. Like I think that goes back to selling t-shirts in the other way of it's outsider art, that sort of art that it is made by people who aren't going to a art university and sort of studying the greats. They are away in some distant village and just sort of going, oh, I feel like painting. Let's figure out what that looks like and therefore creating such interesting work as a result. When do you start to sort of build an act?
I think like speaking of art and like I feel like I really resonate with the whole like outsider thing because I think I really took an interest into performance art. And so it was like the idea of like, oh, you can just kind of like hit everything. Like you can do anything you want as long as there's like kind of like a process or there's some kind of like thought behind it. And I think that's how I structure a lot of my acts. I think when I first structured my act, it was all crazy. So it was like kind of like all leading to like 3 stunts. And I had to make sure that I had like 1 or 2 jokes at the top to kind of like win them over. And then I remember my structure for a really long time was I would split the set in half. The first half would be, I need to make sure you like me. I need to make sure you like me. I have an opener and I'm doing like some kind of like comedy structure so that they can kind of follow it. And then halfway through the middle, I'd be like, now it's my turn. I get to do what I want. And then
you've charmed them. You've endeared yourself to them. Yeah.
And then that's when I do the hectic stuff because I realized I tried to put the hectic stuff at the top. No one would bite. I'd alienate everyone. And then the jokes would never kind of hit. And then the other part was like, my jokes would never match the stunts. So like I could never do a stunt and then follow it with a joke. Because
give us an example of what these stunts would look like.
One of my stunts that I used to do would be like I used to tape a knife to my head and completely have like clear tape kind of pulling my face in different directions. And I'd call myself like, you know, the hack town of the area unicorn. And then and so it was always leading kind of that. The other one I used to do like this eating challenge where I'd like just eat a tablespoon of cinnamon, scull a liter of milk, eat a egg including the shell, and then shove a condom up my nose and make come out my mouth, and I do it in like 50 seconds. Because I'm like, yo, that you won't forget that.
Are you a party trick sort of guy? Were you the person at the party doing this sort of thing?
Yeah.
Look at me go, sort of like, hey guys, check this out.
Yeah. Kick my ass. And look, you can kick up my ass as hard as you want, and like I know I won't hurt. Like that's it. Yeah, and it was a real. I think about this like it was a real outlet. Stand up was a real outlet. I became way more tamer at parties when I found stand up because I could just do the stunts there.
And there seems to be anxiety as part of this, and a feeling of control that, I'm an anxious person, and when we are in stand-up mode, you're now in control of the room, and now you get to frame how this stuff works, and you get to kick your own ass to some degree as well, rather than like everyone line up and beat the shit out of me for laughs. It's like, oh, I'm going to be in control of that. I'm going to be the one throwing the punches.
Yeah, I kind of just needed an outlet. I think it's like I think that's what a lot of it was like I didn't realize that there was a home for the things that I wanted to do because like it didn't really fit any other art form. But I think like at the end of it, it's like it was just I wanted to do some kind of performing, and I think stand up gives you like the freedom to do. Once you realize you can do whatever you want, it's so free.
But also the you say stand up, and it's also just comedy as a genre. You go, come to my comedy show, and people go, oh, I'm familiar with that genre, and then you get to mess with it. They're through the doors now, and then you get to mess with it. Stand up has certain connotations, comedy has certain connotations, but like you're like, oh, this is a way in to now tricking people into performance art, essentially, or whatever you might want to do. And this is why you see so many shows that are deep or adventurous or strange or weird, whatever, but they've used comedy to go, oh yeah, that sounds approachable. And then, because if you told them what was actually going to happen, and you put it in the guide, but I want to talk about how you frame a show, and we'll talk about the show you're doing this year. Even just the simplistic language that you have at the top of what you do and how you set expectations of the audience, how you frame what's happening. Tell me what you say. It's something like, I do fucked up shit. It's something as simple as that, isn't it? That you say to the audience in your show?
Yeah. Which I'd never even thought about, like, that I've been like framing. I'd been framing that. I'd always sort of was like, I just need you guys to know what I'm about.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just like from the wisdom of so many people not knowing what they were coming in for and then walking out. I've had so many walkouts because they didn't know what I was doing that it's almost like I've instinctually gone, I need to tell you what's up at the top of the show. Otherwise, I'm going to have a bad time because that's what happened in the past.
but it's so powerful, the difference between someone doing weird stuff, and as you said, you used to do the stunts up front and people would be alienated, versus telling an audience, I do weird stuff, and then you do it. They go, oh yeah, this person knows what they're doing. I think sometimes discomfort from an audience comes, and like cringe, whatever, comes from, oh, does the person on stage know? Like, do they know they look silly, or do they know that this is anti-comedy, or no one's laughing? If the person on stage has that glint in their eye, that knowing wink of like, I know I'm doing weird, or I know I'm doing anti-comedy, or I know I'm doing performance art, then we can relax as audience members to go, oh, cool, they're on the same page as us. But I think that discomfort can sometimes come from, oh, they're weird. Do they know? do they know that they're stupid?
I think it comes back to like what we were talking before about, like, you know, people seeing comedy as like an art form where they can use it as a vehicle for whatever they're trying to do. And I think the reason why I really love comedy in particular is because like that discomfort that they feel, it's like I'm like, that's my premise. Like that's the tension building that I've like really worked on. I'm like, my whole career is like, oh, that cringe is the premise. Like, I want you to like lose trust in me. And then at the very end, I'm going to pop it and be like, I knew what I was doing the whole time.
Yeah.
And then I've also like leaned in to know like, hey, the chaos actually lets me hide my moves. If I'm too slick, or if I'm too like, I know what's kind of happening, it almost like ruins the illusion. But if I kind of hide it in chaos, I'm able to almost like jank and be more concise. Like, and people won't really like think like, it's my own version of conciseness. But if I jack in a certain place, I can actually cut like full parts out and just get straight to the punchline.
No, I know what you're saying, but I would say that this year's show, and maybe I'm coming in with my own baggage, but this year's show feels slick, and it's chaos, but it's controlled, and I know that every night's different too, and we'll tell the audience about the show. But even that idea of discomfort and cringe in this show, I feel so looked after. I feel so looked after in this show. Yeah,
really.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's disappointing to hear.
No, that's so lovely. No,
because tell the listener who hasn't seen the show, give us a vibe of this year's show. What is it? What are people coming into?
So this year's show is about me learning new skills, and I pitch it as like, hey, I've realized I'm doing these reps constantly, and I'm doing these for like jokes and stuff. What if I actually use these reps to upskill? And so what I've done is I've kind of bloated the show, and I'm trying to upskill everything that I've ever wanted to do. I'm trying to, and the main core of that started with DJing. And so throughout the whole show, you're kind of watching me learn how to DJ, or trying to like use the skills that I've learned with DJing, and then also on top of that, learn some other skills or explore some other areas that I've never really explored before.
Can I spoil what happens at the 15-minute mark?
Yeah, what happens? I can't even.
You say everybody stand up and remove it, and I'm like, okay, I can do that. But, we're going to do a bit where we stand, and then you say, and if you have anything on your chairs, and I had my bum bag on my chair, and you say, take that off and stack the chairs, because we're standing up now, and we turn into a rave.
Yeah. So that was a response to a failure. So okay. I did some secret trial shows where the audiences didn't know what comedian they were going to watch, but they knew they were coming to watch a work in progress.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. I'm going to steal that. That's a great idea.
It's harrowing because they don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And the problem was when I was in the venue, there were no, like the chairs were there. So they had to sit down the whole performance. And I'd done the show a couple of times, but they were in front of people who already knew me or what I was about. So they were like keen to play in.
They had the buy-in.
Yeah, they had the buy-in, but these guys had no buy-in, and also I couldn't move the chairs. And so I went, okay, guys, if you feel like it, you can stand up and dance. Like that's how I originally. If you feel like it. If you feel like it. And it was a very tip because I hadn't been challenged to go, hey, you need to make a decision. It was still like in that place of like, you can go either way. Like it's not a problem. Until that night when I realized, oh, it is a problem. And I cannot build momentum unless I'm actually pitching the vibe that's in my head, which is like people are going to be dancing and having a good time. And then during that show, I remember it fell to a shambles. Like I think I ran like half an hour when I was supposed to do an hour. There was six or seven people in the audience. 2 people walked out because they were like, "Hey, we don't. It's not that we don't like you. We just don't like the music."
Interesting.
But it was like, oh, and then I realized, and then also my manager was like, I think it was because they were sitting down, and I was like, yeah, I could feel it because like there was no way of connection. They were kind of just sitting, waiting to watch the performance. But I'm like, oh no, this is a full immersive thing.
They wanted to be passive.
Yeah,
the passive versus active element, I think, and even for a sitting audience. And this is why an MC exists, and what we're doing at the top of a show, training an audience to go, you have a part to play in this.
Yeah.
You don't get to sit back and just, have this show wash over you. And this is for every show, but I think yours in particular this is why we spoon feed audiences sometimes in your showcase gig. We go, there's going to be comedians on and you're going to laugh and you're going to applaud, because a lot of audience members want to sit back and watch it like TV, but you have to train them. And what I love about you saying, you don't say we're going to stand up and dance or this is going to turn into a rave. You just say, stand up. Oh, I can do that. And then you say, take some stuff off you. And then and it's just clear instruction, which is awesome. And I always, this happened like 8 years ago. There's a comedian, I don't think he does comedy anymore. His name's Ryan Coffey. And I've stolen this thing from him because it's beautiful. We've seen so many MCs and comedians go, oh, people want to move down to the front. There's some seats at the front that need to be filled. Anyone want to move down? And I've seen so many MCs talk themselves out of it. They'll go, anyone move to the front? Oh, don't worry. Oh, that's fine. Oh, if you want to, and like no one's moving because how uncomfortable this MC is trying to move people.
Yeah.
Ryan Coffey, he points at row number 3, goes, hey, everyone in this row stand up. They stand up. And he said, okay, now that you're standing, just come down 2 more rows. And they did it because it was so much easier to just say, can everyone stand up here? Yep. Okay, great. You're standing, move down, versus, oh, anyone want to, and that's you go. That's the bad version of your show is going, anyone want to dance or whatever? Anyone want to,
It's like, it's confidence. It's confidence. And I'm not even thinking it. It's like in my head, I'm going like, this is the best version of the show. Like you don't know what the worst version of the show is, but the choices you're making are going to make this the worst show ever. So like, let me just take control and like and it's, I don't know, like people will like come to we'll be kind of scared by the idea of like it being immersive, but it's like, I know this is the best version of me and I know I want you to have the best time. And I don't, not my best version is when I'm standing up there, everyone's sitting down and I'm kind of just talking at them and they're kind of being passive. That is me, not at my best. My best is when we're at an even level. And I've spent a couple of years trying to like find this ground or explore this ground of like when you're hitting it from like face to face and you're both at the same level, that's truly when I'm at my best.
Yeah, sort of a status experimentation of like, I'm not better than you, I'm not higher than you. Let's play together.
Yeah, let's play together and let's really connect because it's so much more fun and it's so much more electric. I'd tell my jokes at like open mics when I was like writing. I spent like a couple of years just going, I need to get better at my craft. And I'd write all of these one-liners and technically I was leveling up. But the jokes were getting worse, like I was getting less of a response. And I was like, oh, it just kind of clicked. I was like, it's not just about the joke writing, it's the buy-in as well. They're not buying into these jokes. Like we need to be at even level. And it's I did this show where I wanted to play with stakes and I said, okay, I've got 40 jokes, I've got 40 bits. If you guys don't laugh hard enough at these bits, I'm going to shred them. And no one's going to see these jokes for the rest of the season. And then all of a sudden I felt jokes that weren't working. People were screaming at me, don't shred the bit.
That's so
and
great.
I could like feel invisibly in the room, people were buying it and they were listening so hard.
Stakes is the word, isn't it? Yeah, you put stakes and you framed it in a way that now this has meaning. And going back to an earlier point you said about people going, oh, you're either a writer or a performer. I don't think that's the case, but I think some people are text focused. So they're thinking about the content on the page. They're thinking about how can this joke be better, and some people are performance focused, and that can change on any particular day. And I think sometimes when we are going, oh yeah, why isn't this working? We need to go, oh, what's my performer brain doing with this? Why am I being so text focused, a page, and be thinking about how can I frame this? How can I deliver this differently? How am I packaging this joke? Because I love what you're doing there. Speaking of packaging, what's the value that you're seeing of having essentially the entire show underscored? There's music throughout, and you're delivering your jokes over the top of it. And I've seen a few shows that are playing with underscoring. So it's not song, they're not singing, it's music underneath content.
Yeah, so I think like the main goal that I don't think I've hit yet was kind of looking at, like, I've always loved music. I know that musical comedy exists, but when I look at musical comedy,
jury's still out.
Yeah. But when I look at musical comedy, I see it and I'm like, oh, it's still serving like premise punchline.
Yeah.
But when I thought about it for ages, like, but what's the, like, when I'm thinking of comedy music for myself, I'm like, that's not necessarily what I want to do. And it kind of came down to be like, I want comedy atmosphere. I want it to feel like comedic. So I want people to be able to choose when to buy into what they're listening to and then giggle when they feel like it. I don't want to be able to control it. I just want the whole thing to be so experienced that they can choose when to dip in.
But let me challenge you on this idea as well, because you said you're interested in discomfort and tension. If we remove silence from the equation, are we losing a really key ingredient in tension and I think
it turns silence more into a color, because then now when I'm on stage, if there's constant music, if I really want to make a point, I press pause and now I can let it hit. But not only that, if I just want a little moment but I want to keep the beat up, I can just put a low pass filter on it and now it's cut all of the highs and I can just talk through it. And then in my head, if I know the song really well, I can also time my talking so that if a drop's about to come, I can then turn the filter back up and it hits.
And that's the difference between having a DJ type setup versus just a regular play pause thing where you're like, oh, you can control so many more elements of the music than just someone who's just using Spotify you know, as their
which
backing.
I used for so long. I used Spotify for so long, and it's because I can't trust a tech who I've only met for 10 minutes to know, oh yeah, I know what this vibe is. I need that control in that area, because chaos plus more chaos actually causes more distrust. Like I still have to have some kind of control if I really want to be kind of chaotic. And the other thing with the DJing stuff is like, I know this is just the baby version of what I'm trying to do. I have a trust in knowing that if I do this for 3 years, I know the third year there will be some stuff where I'm like, no one else has really kind of like dug deep to the same kind of like interests and loves that I have towards this.
I think it's brilliant, and this is where a lot of the comfort comes from, because there isn't significant chunks of silence. There's this music underneath everything. And so therefore I can just watch you play. And as a comedian, you know, we have a reputation of laughing less in every show. I feel like I don't have to work as hard as an audience. I mean, and also you have this beautiful full audience. So we're all working together to create this atmosphere. But there is a loveliness. Like I watched a show where they were doing, oh my goodness, where are my names? But the comedian was reading a story and that was underscored. And same sort of thing. It's like, okay, they're reading a story. The underscoring means that this is now a piece. And so when the story ends and the music ends off the back of that, we're now going to be met with applause for what a part that might not have had applause without that underscoring. This is now a number, as they might say, and the clowning or you know, piano bar sort of world is like, oh, this is a number now, rather than just a bit. It's now here's an act. And I think the music elevates, quite simply. It does so much work, and so I think it's adds such a beautiful dimension. Tell me about this other element of chaos, which is in your show. You'll frame parts by saying, oh, I want to try this new bit. I go, oh, this is new. Are you tricking me? or you know, how new are these things? Because what I love about it as an audience member, to give you the data, is I'm going, oh, cool, we're seeing something fresh, fun, maybe for the first time. There is a level of, here's the tightrope, and I'm going to tell you how high the tightrope is. So when you say, oh, this is new, it's like, oh, who knows how this could go, versus going into a bit that maybe the comedian's done 100 times before. This is me doing the gotcha journalism part. Are you lying to me?
Yeah, so there are some parts in the show where I'm saying, hey, this is a new bit because I'm trying to raise the tension of like, hey, what's happening here? But there are also the show that you came to specifically as well. There were bits that I had dropped out of the show that I was purposely bringing back because I knew my friends were turning up. And so I was like, okay, I have to bring this back. So me going, this is new, was me actually saying, I haven't done this bit in a long time and I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And so that was the real feeling behind that. And I think the reason you saw so many of like, hey, this is a new bit is because I bloated the show because I wanted my friends to really
I love that sort of insight. We're going to wrap up shortly, but I do want to touch on this moment, which happened surprisingly early in the show, is that you show us, and once again, we'll limit spoilers, but this is a behind the scenes podcast. The listeners, you know, they'll still go along to the show with this information intact, is you show us, I presume, real photos of your bedroom being in a total mess. Yeah. But you talk about the trope of vulnerability in comedy, but you know, often that will come up at like the 40, 45 minute mark of like, let's get real for a bit. You put it at maybe the 15-minute mark around then. Tell me about that, and tell me about the idea of like pointing out the trope while still embracing the trope, you know, having your cake and eating it too, of like, oh, comedy's about vulnerability, so let's be vulnerable. Usually that's tongue in cheek and people going, I'm not going to do that. But you go, this is the move that comedians do. Here it is. Tell me about what motivated the bedroom montage.
I think that was when I was looking into like storytelling. I was like YouTubing a lot about storytelling, and I was YouTubing a lot about like vulnerability. And I think it literally was like, the quote was like, if you want to show true vulnerability, show the state of your room. Like,
oh really?
That's what it is. And I was like, oh, and then I went in my room, I was like, this is disgusting. this is genuine. And I remember like feeling like, oh no. And then in my head I was like, oh, I gotta show this.
Yeah.
I gotta absolutely show this. And then it was that thing of like, it's not necessarily about messing with the trope. That I think I say that because it's like, that was the thing that I was like, I can connect this as soon as possible. But it was more to be like, hey, let me disarm you and be like, hey, I'm being as like real as I can with you guys right now. Like this, instead of it being like a 40-minute mark, it's almost like an offering to be like, hey, this is who I am. I'm meeting you there. And I think that, and I feel it in the audience. I feel everyone connect with me more.
There's a humbling quality of like, this is how I live.
Yeah.
But tell me, I just want to touch on that thing as well, of the comedian who doesn't have their shit together, of like, okay, you might think we're having a great time in the room, but this is how I really live. How long is that sustainable? Are you bringing that to Sydney with you, of like and we, about the admin of it all and all that jazz, but like there is this sort of Peter Pan element to a lot of comedians of, I do comedy, I love it, things are going well, but like, have a look at my bedroom. I don't know how to do basic shit, and almost embracing that side of like, I don't really know how to feed and clothe myself. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but there is that trope of like comedians embracing almost a patheticness of like, oh, I don't know how the world works. But I feel like as how old are you? 32. As we get into our 30s, I'm 36, I think. I'm pretty sure. But like there it does become like, all right, maybe I should learn how to tidy my room, which you do sort of touch on as well.
Yeah, I think it's like, again, I think it all just kind of, one, it's a show, and I think two, it's like, it's playing into the status. It's playing into the status games of like, hey, if I present as high status, you guys want this from me. But if I perform it, and I think I've just learned, and this is something I'm kind of come to terms with at the moment, is like I've lived my life kind of like, I think I've been kind of getting through life by playing low status. And I think the thing I'm kind of coming towards now is going like, hey, actually you're not always low status. And I think maybe that's the real vulnerability, is showing my more high status side. I think it's one of the, it's actually something I'm actually going through right now, which is like, I think I'm at the point where I'm having to kind of like push that to the side, because I think I'm kind of being aged out by like where low status kind of works. And I think I'm now having to embrace more of like where my high status or where medium status is right now.
Yeah, and I guess it's also like the if you're doing DJing, there's an inherent coolness. Well, maybe not with all DJs, but like there is you make it look cool of like I'm DJing on stage. There is like, oh, and you're also good at it, and you're doing comedy. Like, so you are. There's a rock star quality to you being on stage, and also people are coming with their own baggage. They've seen you on telly, they're coming to you, and they're already imbuing you with a level of status. So yeah, you can work hard against that and go, yeah, but here's some truth of it all, and we'll embrace that. But there are things you can't fight against, which is, oh, you have celebrity status. Wow. A lot of people are coming with like, oh, this guy's cool. You're DJing on stage, you're doing comedy, you're brave enough to be really silly, get people on their feet. That is all stuff that plays to, holy shit, this person's really confident. So you have to sort of fight against and go, I'm actually a pathetic loser. People go, I don't believe you.
So that's the part that I'm genuinely wrestling with right now.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't view myself like, that's the part is I'm having to sit in it and be like, okay, no, actually look at what's happening in your life. You're not as low status as you were when you first started. So you can't keep retelling that myth to yourself.
You can't keep saying, hey, everyone, come and kick my ass. I'm someone deserving of having my ass kicked at this party for laughs. Instead, it's like, okay, let's reframe this. Maybe I'll stop doing that.
And I'm mainly doing it for my girlfriend. Because she's like, yo, your low status shit gives me the ick. Yeah, you gotta be more high status.
But the ick is like, I don't believe you. It's inauthentic.
Yeah. And that's exactly what she's been saying. Yeah, that's exactly what she's been saying.
And let's bring her in.
Jenny, come through.
Well, let's round this out by just touching on you move into Australia. What's coming up? Like, and let's plug some stuff.
Yeah, so you can follow me at David Post Office on most socials. I'm mainly active on Instagram. And I'm going to be going to Brisbane, Perth, Sydney, New Zealand, and then hopefully later in the year I want to do a UK tour.
Yeah, awesome.
So, and then come check out my YouTube channel at David Post Office, where I post my DJ sets, where I do cooked DJ sets with my friends.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Man, this has been such a great hang.
Oh, it's been so much fun. Thank you so much for having me, Marcel.
Thanks for making the time. It's delightful.
Yeah. I love going deep on everything.
Because I'm also like